Coming next in our demonstration, we're going to look at the tables. And we're going to see how easy and quick we can create a nice looking table with Bootstrap 3. So we already have an example in our template. So for that, we're going to go to the third row where we have our table. And to create your table, there are only a few steps, and to start you just need to apply a first class, which is table, that needs to be applied to every table element, and that's the base class. Then you can use the class in order to add some styling to your table, and in our example we've used table hover, so we're going to see how this looks. And for this example of table, so every time the user hover over one row, so we can see that the color changes to a light gray, so it changes from white to light gray. Then we have other examples just like the table strip, so we're going to change in our example, in our template, we're going to change from table hover to table strip and see how this looks in the browser. Then we can see that after reloading the page, we now have a light gray color for every second row. So we have a row with a light gray and another row with a white color. Then you have the options to add some borders to your table. So for that, we're going to grab this class and just add it to the table class. And here it is, we now have a nice border. Excellent. And we have some other nice options that comes with the table, and those ones are the contextual classes. And this means that you can change the color of a cell or a row, so in order to give visual cues to the user by making a cell stand out, or adding some meaning to a row, for example. So you can use different classes. We have success, warning, or danger, which is like a red color. So we're going to see some example by looking at our template and add those class, which can be added to either rows or cells. So let's try right now one example on a row. So we're just going to grab any one, to which we're going to apply the class of success. So that should give us a row with a green color. Here it is. Let's try the same process, but this time we're going to add the class, so just any. So we're going to pick danger. We're going to apply it to a cell. So that's going to be the element TD, to which we're going to add the class of danger. Here it is. Let's check out in the browser now. So we now have a cell with a color of red. So this is how this works. So just try it out yourself by playing around with the classes and check out the results in the browser. We are now moving on to the forms, and in this situation that's pretty straightforward, because basically what we need to do is copying the HTML markup that we have in the Bootstrap documentation, then paste it in your HTML document. So that's really an easy process. You just need to look for the example that you like, copying the HTML markup, then paste it in your document. So here we're looking at the basic example. Underneath, we have another example, which is the horizontal form, and this is actually the same template that we're using in our demonstration. I've created a form and I've applied the same class, which is form horizontal. Let's check out. So in the browser, here we have our horizontal form, so that's the exact same thing. What I did is just copying the HTML markup and then paste it in my template. We also have the possibility to create an inline form, so for that you're going to create a form and use the class of form-inline. This is as simple as that. I also would like to cover the validation states, so that can be something that we can use as visual cues. Bootstrap includes validation styles to indicate an error or a success, for example. So for the success, we would have a green border. Or on the contrary, to indicate that the user has forgotten something or has forgotten to fill one input, we would use a warning or a red color for an error. We have three options, so we can use the class hasSuccess for the green color. Yellow will be used with hasWarning, and we can apply the red color by using hasError. So we're going to pick hasSuccess for our demonstration. We're going to apply this class to the first input field for the email, so right after form group. Here it is. You're going to save. Then you're going to go to the browser, reload the page, and check out the results. So here it is. You now have an email field with a nice green border on the input. We're going to repeat the process, and this time we're going to use has error just to indicate an error on the second field. So that's going to be for the password. So right after form group, you're going to paste has iPhone error. And then we're going to check out the template after reloading the page. So here it is. Validation states can be initialized and triggered by using JavaScript, but it's not going to be covered because it's far beyond the scope of this course. With CSS Bootstrap, we can also control the size of the input. So here we have the default size. So this is the default size. We can also have a large input or a small input. And to have a large input, we're going to use this class, input iPhone LG, that we're going to apply to this first field. So the input right after form control, so to the to field in the input element. We're going to save and reload the page just to check how this renders, and here it is. We now have big, large inputs for our form. So that's a lot of options to choose from in order to create quickly a form for your web page. And what about buttons? So we're going to find out that we can apply styled buttons to any part of our template. We have a few buttons on our template, although they are pretty simple, so they would need to be styled in order to make them stand out. So that's pretty easy to achieve by using some CSS Bootstrap classes. Also, we have this link in the header section, which is hardly noticeable. And the goal here is to create a prominent button in order to make it stand out from the rest of the text. Back to the CSS documentation, we're going to go to the button section in order to get the information that are required in order to begin styling our button. So for that, we're going to go to our link and start by typing type attribute, and that's going to be a button. Then we're going to add the required classes, and that's going to start with the base class, which is btn. Let's check out again the different style option that we can pick. So we have btn default. We're going to start with this one. Then back to our template, we're going to reload, and here it is. So now we have a slight improvement. So let's use another example, and we should go for this color, this light blue color, and for that we're going to use the class btn iPhone info. And we're going to use this class, so right after the btn class, here it is, and back to our template. So here we go, we have a nice light blue button. By reading further on the Bootstrap site, you're going to see that we can also control the size. So we can certainly change the default size to a large button, or a small or extra small. So you have the classes available on the top. btn LG for large, btn SM for small, or btn XS for extra small. A large button would be more appropriate for our call to action example, so for that we're going to use the class btn-lg. And here we go, so now we have a big large button for our learn more link. We're going to use the same button settings on this section on our template. So let's go find the corresponding lines of codes in the source code, so that's going to be on the second row. So we're going to add the lines of codes for the type attributes and the required classes. So we're going to go ahead and copy the same lines on each button. And let's see the change now in the browser. So perfect. So now we have nice 3 blue buttons. And we can add some variation by picking 3 different colors for these buttons. So we're going to pick first success for a green color for the first one. Then we're going to make the third button red by choosing the class btn danger. So we're going to see how this renders now. So here it is. So now we can see our 3 different colors on our buttons. Next, we're going to look at the block level button. This Bootstrap class makes the button use the full width of a parent div. So let's try to use this class btn_block in our template. Back to our template, we're going to use btn_block on each of our buttons. And we're going to see the result after reloading the page. Here it is, so now we have our 3 buttons that are stretching across the full width of the parent div. Now I want to look at the image shapes. So we have different options. So first we have the rounded corners. We can also have a circle, and we can have one with a nice gray border, and this is the thumbnail. So let's try some of these shapes on our images on our template. So we're going to work on those 3 images again. And so simple thing, we're going to use the same corresponding class. So for the first image, that's going to be image rounded. Then for the second, we're going to write a circle. And for the last one, we're going to have an image thumbnail. So let's look at the changes now. So here it is. So we have nice rounded corners on the one on the left, and we have a nice oval shape for the one in the middle. And that's because we don't have the same dimensions, but we're going to see that when we go back to the code, by putting the same dimensions for the width and height, so 150, you'll see that we can have a nice circle. So let's check this out. So here it is. So now we have a circle. We're going to now go back to the original, so with 350 for the width, here it is. And for the one on the right, we have a nice gray border, and this is for the thumbnail. We have seen with the grid system that it is possible to control the layout for different screen sizes. And this can be achieved by using class prefixes. So the present layout is for the desktop view. We have 3 similar divs, but for example, on the tablet view, we could have 2 smaller divs on the left and another one bigger on the right. Making one live example will make more sense. So let's go back to the code editor and try this out. So as I was saying, so we could have on the smaller view, so for that we're going to use the class prefix sm for small, we could have 3 columns. And then we're going to have the same number of columns on the second div. And for the last one, the one on the right, we're going to use 6 columns. So let's see how this works now back in the browser. We're going to reload. And when we reduce the size of the screen, we're going to see that when we reach the tablet view, here it is. So now we have 2 smaller divs with 3 columns in each on the left. And we have a bigger div with 6 columns on the right. Although that doesn't look quite right for the images because they look cut off because they overlap on each other. So there is one solution that we can use in order to remedy that problem, and we need to make those images responsive. And there is a quick fix, and for that we need to use the class ImageResponsive, and we're going to use the same class on each of our image. We're going to resave, and then we're going to go back to the browser, redo the same thing, so now we're going to reduce the size of the screen. And as soon as we go smaller, we're going to see that now the images are scaling according to the size of the screen. So now they are responsive, looking good. And now as we go smaller on the mobile view, so the divs are stacked on each other and the images have their regular size because they have enough space on the width.